here. Today we are the June 12th. Actually, it's June 11th for me, but let's pretend it's June 12th, eh? And I'm not going to put any new releases, no new pre-orders. This week we have a full show. Fred Serval. He interviewed Rodney. The guy's Canadian. I asked Rodney about 10 times for an interview. And a Frenchman from France who lives in England gets a Canadian to do an interview. And he talks about ambush and all that stuff. You know, it's concerning. Anyways, check out Fred's thing. Jeff McAleer had a triple bypass, I think, and everything is fine. So good. Check him out on the Gaming Gang. Hey, a triple bypass. It's like getting hit by a truck. Huh? Anyways. Have a good show. And I'm sure something's gonna happen.
And I'm Grant.
Ciao.
Hello, this is Riccardo Masini, and this time the greatest day in history and games is June 14, 1775. The day when 13 former British colonies in revolt decided that they needed an army to defend their revolution, a continental army. The first battles of Lexington and Concord were quick affairs, with brief exchanges of fire between irregular American militia and regular British formations. However, even if these were the first shots heard around the world, it was soon clear that they would not be the last ones. The Crown was utterly determined to regain control of its unruly colonial subjects by any means necessary. It was then evident that the Revolutionary Congress needed something more organized than poorly trained half-time militias and ad hoc provincial regiments like those hastily formed during the previous French and Indian War. Many objections and doubts remained upon the creation of a full standing army in the European style, but a good compromise was found in the man who would command the new Continental Army, the well-known and respected General George Washington. In the 8 tumultuous years of the conflict, the new formation would have many different phases. At first, the men were enlisted for just 1 year, then for 3, then to the end of the war. It would pass from some just thousands of regular troops to 80,000 soldiers. The first regiments will be closely tied to their original colony, but then they will progressively amalgamate in formations of mixed origin. And speaking of origin, worthy of note, it was a fully integrated force, with almost 10% of its soldiers coming from African and native descent. Also, contrary to the popular belief, and even if many parallels have been drawn, Continental soldiers were not immediately as well trained and effective as the new model army of the English Civil War. Brave and valorous as they were, in the first days they were just slightly better than militia regarding discipline and combat effectiveness, but there was much room for improvement. Enter now Prussian Baron Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben, a truly colorful character who could not speak English, boasted of having served under Friedrich the Great, and was one of the best drill masters of his age. Von Steuben reported to Washington with the rank of Inspector General, arriving at the camp of Valley Forge in February 1778, and immediately began reworking the entire structure of the battered Continental Army. In the hard conditions of the winter camp, he drilled the men, told them how to properly execute volley fire and bayonet charges, reorganized the supply chain ending Western corruption, wrote detailed regulations and procedures. All of this in German, of course, with Washington, his secretary Alexander Hamilton, frantically translating at night every document written by the Baron so that it could be understandable for use the next day. What came out of Valley Forge was now a truly competitive force, able to stand up and in many cases overcome its British adversaries. In the following years, it had its ups and downs, of course, but in the end, it was a fundamental element of the eventual victory in the American War of Independence. After the Revolution, the Continental Army was quickly reduced in numbers and then almost entirely disbanded. Washington himself was worried that such a powerful military force could become a political pawn, as had actually happened with the new model army after the English Civil War. But its experience and many of its men would form the basis for what would later become the US Army. Of the many more games about the Revolution, I'd like to speak today of a series that truly gives you an accurate depiction of the complex evolution of the Continental Army, battle after battle, campaign after campaign. The Battles of the American Revolution series by Mark Miklos. The beauty of this system is that it depicts many interesting and highly asymmetrical battles of the conflict, some of which not so well known, especially outside the US, in a very essential and streamlined way. The views are just a bit more detailed than your typical basic introductory wargame, but in that detail lie all the virtues of the series. Firstly, the flow of the battle is very well represented by the momentum cheats, temporary bonuses that can shift the initiative in crucial moments or grant you precious rerolls in key engagements. Also, each clash between units is modified by the use of special tactic cards secretly chosen by the players, leading to surprising turns of events and giving character and drama to every single combat. In the end, each army has its own overall moral level, dependent on the battle evolution. Even single local episodes can have a cascading effect on the general effectiveness of the force under your command. The series gives you a very comprehensive picture of the tactical aspects of the war. Two highly diversified titles with small and big battles, sieges, clashes with native forces, and much more. A very good starting point is the tri-pack containing the Guildford, Saratoga, and Brandywine modules. A lot of gaming value in just one box. So, that's it for this time. See you on the next Battlefields. Ciao!
And of course, Omulden's host Fred Serval is extremely happy. Look at that happy Canadian over there. How the hell did he get Rodney Smith? But anyways, Fred Serval is happy to have Rodney Smith from Watch It Played talk about war games and coin. You got it. I consider her a friend. Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, soon to be my nemesis, is checking out how to solo Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice Part 3, a game designed by Thibaut de la Touane and published by Triton Noir. And on Little Wars TV, they ask you to join the Quick Strike After Action Report Challenge, for God's sake. I'm telling you, the word is out about Dragon Man's Museum. Check it out. Check it out. What kind of tobacco you're gonna smoke with this? You're gonna smoke something with perique in it, so you get a little bit of spiciness. You know what I mean? Because this is gonna spice up your life. Let us not forget HB. Harold Buchanan is interviews Ed Beach. I know I've said this before, but hey, these are some serious players here. Dean Essig. Look at Jason Matthews with that mustache. Makes me think like Clark Gable. I miss the 20s too, Jason. And Ted Racier and Mark McLaughlin. Counterproductive Games looks at Command and Colors. samurai battles. Scenario 1 and how to play, prepping and playing Command and Colors. And his first look at Brigade Fire and Fury. And if you're in the mood for a movie, I can even suggest what type of tobacco, pipe tobacco that is, that you can smoke while watching this. Beware of the Blob, or Son of the Blob, 1972, a murderous jello, the blob creature, origins, anatomy, on Marvelous Videos. And the tobacco you have to smoke with this? Well, I'd go heavy, like a Balkan. Artie of ARDWULF'S Lair is unboxing Cradle of Civilization from Compass Games. Also, hey, I was on that show, War Games. Everything you wanted to know about War Games, but you were afraid to ask. We started off with the conventions. We spoke about conventions and then we branched out. And supposedly, the next one, I want to do war movies. But Artie's got something to say about that. Also, counter-clipping obscure war game topics, and he's flipping through Enter the Borderlands classic modules, reincarnated. This looks like a D&D thing. Alright, goodbye. And the man famously known as Calandale, Enrico Viglino, is checking out from GMT Phalanx, Salazia, or Salazia, whatever. John Crank's Compass Games are on the air with, they're live I should say, not with episode 58. There's their perfect sentence structure. On Kings and Generals, you can learn about Cyrus the Great, the rise of the Archimedean Empire. A man, a camera, and his game, Bare Bones Wargaming, Tim Gorchnoy, checks out Barbarossa campaign game. What Stalin expected, or did he? The devilishly handsome and cute Wayne Hansen! He's reconning the Dark Summer, Normandy 1944, Tag Racer. Also, Zero Leader by Chuck Seeger. Man, if that doesn't sound like an Air Force pilot. He's doing an overview and review. Also, he checks out Stalingrad Solitaire. I was gonna skip that one. It's a good thing I did. You're informed now. The GIMPY Gamer. He's doing a triangle simulation on Society, Carnage, and Glory. This is the second part. Also, he's got a third part on that. And Gimpy's gal is back with guessing Atlantic Chase. And he checks out the second edition of War Room. And the Mascalzones and Ruvinatis and Deficientes, the Player's Aid. Does Grant know my war game collection better? And they're also unboxing 300 Earth and Water from Nuts Publishing. And the player's initial thoughts on Bayonets and Tomahawk from GMT. I bet you it's good, because it's designed by a Quebecer, so don't shaft me there, whatever your names are. Unboxing Dominant Species Marine from GMT, a game by the late Chad Jensen, carried over by his wife, Kai Jensen. GMT Games looks inside the box over Storm, Over the Reich, a game by Jerry Wait, and I think Gina, something on this one? I might be mistaken. I forgot. Someone will correct me. Vento Nuevo announces the new game. Orange Swan covers the war in the Pacific from 41 to 45. This is a Kickstarter starting June 24th. A game designed by Emanuela Sant'Andrea. Talk about another smart guy. Il Volo dell'Aguila, Salvatore Sant'Angelo, The Flight of the Eagle Virtual Con. So, FIW. I'm a bit confused. But anyways, there's a virtual con happening the 29th of May, 2021. Where? On the Italian War Game Federation page. But for you people who really want to know how it's said, Federazione Italiana War Game. And Mark Felton. Anyways, you got that free music, huh? But anyways, did Britain torture Nazis? I hope so. The London Cage controversy. Mark Felton. And we have another counter-clipping stream called Dadisms. I find that very interesting. I am a dad. On Dad versus Son. And Ronnie Tucker, who took life from Nashville and came to be an artist and illustrator. With a name like Ronnie Tucker, do you disbelieve me? That's what I thought. He checks out Strategy and Tactics Operation Jubilee. Matt White looks at the War Undone 1914 East Prussia War Game preview. Actually, review, not preview. And ID Jester does an unboxing, new packages. What did I get this time? And the Hugh Hefner of War Games Wardy Robe live play. They play D-Day Beach Assault live. Sort of a beginner player playing. Yeah. And Mo from Mo's Game Table checks out High Frontiers For All colonization module. Also, Aliens, Another Glorious Day in Decor painted figures, and South China Seas from Compass Games preview. Legendary Tactics takes a look at Twilight Struggle strategy in how to play the Brezhnev Doctrine card. How do you play it? Well, you lay it down on the table. That's first steps, baby.
Hello everyone, this is Michel Leviathan-Sorbet from the Polish YouTube channel Wojennik TV. Here is, as usually, my weekly roundup of the content that I published on Wojennik TV during the last week. On Sunday I started with a top 3 of the games that I most heavily played and enjoyed in May 2021. During this short video I have spoken about 3 games. Firstly about Coalitions, a game which will be covering the Napoleonic Wars, and it will be soon released on Kickstarter. It will be published by Phalanx. You should definitely take a look at it because it seems to be a very interesting project. Secondly, I have spoken about Foidem, a game published by Mindclash Games a few years ago. An interesting game, a very complex game with tons of different actions, with tons of different components. I really enjoyed it a lot. Finally, my top game of May was Imperial Struggle, firstly published by GMT Games and also released in Poland by Phalanx. An extremely interesting but also complex game published by the same, created by the same designers that created Twilight Struggle, so by Jason Matthews and Ananda Gupta. Very interesting, very engaging, and about a theme which is extremely important, which is extremely interesting when it comes to me, because I like games covering French and British rivalry. I like games in which we can recreate those epic struggles which were fought between those two nations during many centuries. On Tuesday I published the video in English, and this was the unboxing of Panzer Strike France 1944 Pocket Edition by Forsage Games, which is a small war game which enables us to recreate combats of tank which enables us to recreate tank duels fought set in Normandy 1944, but in reality it's a hypothetical setting using small miniatures of tanks. Very accessible, very fast to play, quite an interesting title. I will be covering in a future review. On Wednesday I changed the epoch and I made a voyage to the past, to be precise to the 16th century, because I unboxed the game published recently by ACS Edizioni, which is Lepanto 1571. So this is a game covering the most important battle fought between the Christian and Ottoman forces during the 16th century, a battle which enabled to stop the expansion of the Ottoman Empire, although it wasn't as successful as it might seem at first glance. Finally, on Friday I released a new review. This time it was a review of a Euro game of Chronicles of Crime 1900, published by Lucky Duck Games. This is a detective game, a game using a special app, thanks to which we can see unveiling a criminal story. We will be trying to see what happened during the story. We'll try to find some evidence, we'll try to locate suspects, we'll try to question them, and at the end we'll have to answer questions concerning all this interesting quest. So those were the four videos published on Wojennik TV during the last week. I wish you all an excellent weekend, very good gaming, and see you next time.
And the man who goes by the name of Jeff takes a look at storming above the Reich. He does a couple of playthroughs, 1 and 2, I should say 1 to 4. Check it out. I got it. Still haven't played it yet. And the Professor Riccardo Mazzini has una serata con Salvatore Sant'Angelo, a night or an evening with Salvatore Saint Angelo. Also, on his Warlock Special 1000, 3DI3 says La Comunicazione, communication, I'm assuming about war games. And the Italian intellect Mauro Faina is live with Johnny Zero Nero and checks out The Last Gamble, if I'm not mistaken from MMP, and that's it. At the House of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, it is Command & Colors Ancients 211 Mummies Defeat. Mummies. What the hell? Mummies! And KilRoyWasHere checks out Duel in the North, Leningrad 1941 from Decision Games, and La Bataille de Quatre Bras, an unboxing. Also, Saalfeld, Prelude to Jena, the 10th of October 1806. And that's what it is. Big Board Gaming takes a look at Lock and Load Publishing's expansion Battles to Orion Scenario number 2. And the chief of Bonding Wood Board Games is looking at Navios de Linea, Ships of the Line, Volume 2, Abukir 1798. Algeciras, 1801 plus more? Chief, get something I can pronounce. The philosopher Jason Cruz from Hexes and Soldiers is painting a French line. Hey, I got a French fence to paint here, Hex. You wanna come over? World War II Solitaire Board Game Channel reviews the 2nd edition of D-Day Dice Atlantic Wall. This is a versus game, because usually D-Day Dice is a cooperative, solo and cooperative game, but this expansion allows you to play head-to-head. Also, a playthrough of The Hunters, German U-Boats at War, 1939 to 1943. And that's it. The Kiwi, Rough Swordsman Wargamer, is checking out Decision Games. This is part 3 of his playthrough of D-Day at Peleliu. Also, he's unboxing Shadows of Brimstone City of the Ancients. This is the core set. And that's it. Hex to Hex looks at Herman Lutman, or Bo Bridges, Longstreet Attacks Part 3 from Revolution Games, and checks out Chickamauga. Civil War Battle Series 4.6 Part 3, Baron Victory. Hey. The Strong Man of War Games on his War and Pieces. He's previewing Kickstarter, a 2 Minute to Midnight. goes live June 14th at 11:58. War and Pieces. Combat Board Games is reliving his youth at The Battle for Endor by West End Games. Obviously, a Star Wars game. This is a solitaire Star Wars game. Sounds cool. As Stephen Dolges continues on The Deadly Woods, the campaign post-mortem, and he gives us his review. Check it out. I haven't seen Wise Guy in a long time. He's checking out The Dark Summer. This is a review of a game by... Well, who's it by? Ted Racer, no? Am I right? Yes, I am. I'm always right. And at the Bovington Tank Museum Tank Chats number 129, they talk about the Marmon Harrington Mark IV, the Tank Museum. The No Enemies Here Grognard of the Year 2020, voted by you, the people. Jim Ozarski is checking out the Battle of Lobozitz, for Black Powder 2, and also the Battle of Quatre Bras, the third one. Shackles number 2. I mean, that's what it says there, Shackles 2. What do you want me to tell you? And the man second to none in videography, Poindexter Games, is going to do London's Burning. Go Pointy! BLASTPOP reboxes the game generously donated by a friend subscriber. Good for you, BLASTPOP. BLASTPOP is checking out Shiloh from Worthington Games, American Civil War debox. Worthington's up and coming big time, especially in new war games to present to new war gamers. What do we call them? Entry-level war games. That's what I'm trying to say. And could you believe Herman Lutman looks like Beau Bridges?
Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of wargame review institutions. On YouTube, we have done a first look at GDW, La Battle de la Moscow, or however you pronounce that. Pretty interesting looking game from 1975. Looks pretty playable too. And we've also done a first look at the famous game known as Time Tripper from SPI. In this, a U.S. infantryman from the Vietnam War has some special radio that he's built. And he obviously screwed up when he built it because it created a time warp that is bringing him to different battles in the past and in the future too, and he's trying to find his way back to his own time. Here's kind of a rare one we did a first look at. This is Objective Schmidt from The Gamers. This is about the battles in the Hurtgen Forest in World War II. Thanks for watching and have a good evening.
STUKAJOE, the one and only STUKAJOE, does a preview of Napoleon 1807, the campaign in Poland, a game designed by Denis Savage and published by Shackles. And Back to the Table checks out his solo games, a look at and his opinion of them. Marco Obni Gamers checks out Fighters of the Pacific. This is a review. Seek Out and Play checks out the Second Sino-Japanese War, or Sino-Japanese War. Japanese Forces Warfighter World War II expansions number 14 and 15. Check it out. He's got amazing lighting.
Hello all. Today, Kilroy goes off the shelf on update kits. Or sometimes they're called upgrade kits. I've noticed a recent trend in war games where publishers are issuing update or upgrade kits for war games. Now they have different purposes. Sometimes they're a collection of errata that has come out over time, and so they want to issue a new rule book and also change some of the components with that errata. Other times it might be an actual change in the game. They might have updated some of the components or the factors on some of the, equipment or tanks or airplanes or different elements in the game. And so they want to update both the rules and the components in that regard. So some of the examples I have that I have acquired over my time, one of which I don't have here because I've already put it within the game. I've already parsed it out. Is there was a Distant Plane and Cuba Libre update kit, that's part of the Coin series, and that was basically bringing it, those editions from their first edition up to the second edition. So that's another purpose that comes out with these update or upgrade kits, is that the edition changes. So in the second edition, they've updated some elements. They've changed the rules, or they've changed some of the gameplay. And so they have a second edition when they come out, and sometimes they'll issue an update or upgrade kit that brings the first edition up to the second edition. Another example I have here is the one that just came out for Field Commander Nimitz upgrade kit. And what they've done here is they show here they've upgraded the Japanese orders, they've upgraded the campaign map, and they've updated or upgraded the rule book. So this is going to have a new rule book. This is going to have a new campaign map, which is actually the map for the board. It's a mounted board that comes along with this. And so they've changed some elements, which is basically kind of what I was just saying. This takes it from the first edition to the second edition. So there's a second edition Field Commander Nimitz, and this is what you need. If you own the first edition, this is what you need to kind of get it to the second edition. Another example of that is Wing Leader, put out by Nimitz, came out from DVG. Wing Leader came out from GMT, and this is basically an update kit that kind of brings it to the second edition. They're going to have a second edition of Wing Leader Victories, which is what this was related to. And so this is going to get a second edition rulebook, which is version 2.2. But this also has a new map board. There's not a lot of changes to the map board. The second edition map board actually has a mounted one. This one just has a paper one. But as you can see here, there's quite a bit of cardboard in there because they've updated the aircraft. All the aircraft actually got updated in some of the expansions, but this actually, I think, gives you all the updated, all the aircraft are updated to the second edition in this update kit. And then another one we have that I've already parsed it out, except for the one I don't have. I don't own All Bridges Burning. But this is from GMT. This was for Imperial Struggle. It actually had 3 good games. It had Imperial Struggle, Versailles, 1919, and All Bridges Burning. And this one really was more of a, especially for Imperial Struggle and Versailles, it was errata. That there was some components that were done in the first printing that were not correct. Some map issues and some counter issues and some cards. And so this is basically an errata update kit in that respect. So, there's some various reasons. It looks like one of the primary reasons that update kits are coming about are like when there's a second edition that comes out. And that second edition usually is, correcting some errata, changing the gameplay or the rules a little bit, and then updating the components that are affected by that. So, that update kits or upgrade kits, what do you guys think about that? I mean, that's not something that we used to see back in the day. I say this is relatively recent. I mean, I've seen it over the last, I don't know, 5 to 6 years, maybe earlier than that. Maybe it's been going on earlier than that. But what do you guys think about that? Do you like these upgrade kits? Do you like these update kits? Should they have done that in the first printing, or how do you feel about that? For me, who's kind of a completionist, if I have the first edition, do I just scrap the first edition and go out and buy the second edition, or do I go the route of these update or upgrade kits, which is what I kind of tend to do because I've already bought the game and playing the game, and I want, if I feel like I need to go to the second edition, I'll look for one of these upgrade kits. So what's your guys' thoughts on it?
Another week, another show. It's hot out here, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, and support me on Patreon. Last week I showed a pipe that came from England called the Falcon. Well, here's one that comes from France. Check that out! Hey, these Frenchies, man. That looks like a cigarette. It's fantastic. How do you clean it? Look at that! Look at that system! Rika! Rika, you got a pipe like this! Anyways, have a good weekend. Be happy. Could be hard sometimes. You know, before we die, we live. Think about that. Have a good weekend.